You're listening to Gameday Tarps podcast, coast to coast, with your hosts, Riley, Dakota, Dallas, Dayton, and Wilbs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gameday Tarps podcast. As always, I'm Dally, Riley, and Wilbs. Today, we will be jumping into the final championship games of the hockey season, with the Florida Panthers ultimately defeating the Edmonton Oilers in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and the Hershey Bears winning it all for the Calder Cup in the AHL Finals. Boys, let's jump into this. But before that, I just want to give our continuing listeners a very much appreciated shout out. We very much love your support, and thank you for listening as always. And for everyone who's new to the Gameday Tarps podcast audience, please give us a like and a subscribe. It'd be very much appreciated. And toggle that notification bar on to stay up to date with everything happening in the hockey world. We will delve into everything going on this off season with draft recap, free agency frenzy, and everything else going on leading up to September training camp. So without further ado, let's jump into this, gentlemen.
Let's do it. Actually, I almost forgot about this. I want to note this. This is actually our 1 year episode. June 29th, 2023 was our first ever episode uploaded as a podcast to Spotify and everything. Today is our 1 year episode. So thanks for being here, boys. This is an awesome time getting to do this for a year with you gentlemen and growing this podcast to 5 guys and across the country and everything. We've had a blast. So like you said, Dally,
only up from here, boss.
Only up
Yes,
from
sir.
Okay, well, let's talk about something that's only going down from here. The Arizona Coyotes owner, Alex Marullo, has announced that they will fold their ownership of the Arizona Coyotes brand rights in the NHL. It sounded like they were kind of lying about this arena deal 1 week before their arena deal was supposed to happen. Apparently, Arizona State canceled it, they said, and all of a sudden there was no arena for them, and now he's folded the team. So it was an embarrassing look.
How many more hints do you guys need, though, really? Like, it's not going to work in Arizona State. Like, just move on. Like, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but, like, you ain't going to get nothing out of it. Like, they keep repeatedly telling you, like, no, we don't want the Arizona Coyotes here anymore. We're going to cancel the land trust, land agreement. You know, we don't want your big blueprint and, you know, fancy letters saying what you're going to bring to the community or anything like that. It's just the government, the councils, and the municipality and the state government is always going to shut it down because they are clearly telling you that they are done with the Coyotes. Like, I'm sorry to the fans, the diehard fans of the Coyotes everywhere, but it happens, right? Teams move and they find new identities. So you had a good run, sorry, but yeah, sad days for Coyotes fans, but it's time to move on. Cheer for Utah. I mean, they looked great, man. Like, they are going to be such an up and coming team. Like, the amount of moves that we'll get into, but man, their draft and their free agency and all the big trades they were making at the draft, like, they're going to be a good competitive team as their new identity in the next season. So can't wait to see what they have in store.
Yeah, we will be doing, for everyone watching this week alone, we will be doing this episode 35, which is about the Stanley Cup final and the finals that ended the hockey season officially. But we do have a 2024 NHL draft special, which will be coming out right after. And then following that, like Dallas said, a free agency special, free agency frenzy, whatever you want to call it. It will be following directly after that. We're hoping to have 3 episodes within 7 days here because this busy end of the year. But today, we're just going about the finals, and that's okay because it was a heck of a finals, gentlemen.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, almost a comeback of the century by the Oilers to fall short of Game 7. I mean, couldn't write a better storyline than that. And, was happy either way. And very, very happy for a few people like Bobrovsky, like finally getting to live it. Also, Roberto Luongo, who was part of the staff, who finally will have his name on the cup. So that's going to be pretty surreal for him, even though he wasn't playing in it. A lot of I've seen a lot of controversy with him be like, oh, why does he get to lift it? But it's like he's much as part of the team as the players themselves, because those staff members are the ones that get them there. Like, there's so many of them that it's not only just the players, it's the coaches, it's the management, it's the vice president. Like, that's how everything just gets done there.
Exactly.
Agreed.
All right, let's try and bomb through some stats here. We had the most goals in a postseason in the cap era. Zach Hyman with 16, ahead of Crosby and Ovechkin with 15. Zach Hyman managed playoffs and regular season combined to hit the 70 goal mark this year, which was pretty impressive for a guy who really wasn't. He's had a $5.5 million contract. Like he's not making $9 million like guys who score that much or more, right? What did Austin Matthews score? 70? Did he only score one in the playoffs?
69.
Did he score in the
69.
playoffs though? But playoffs and season combined. Did he only score one in the playoffs?
Did he? I think he scored one.
He at
Pretty
least
sure
scored one.
Yeah, he
so,
scored one. He scored
like,
one, yeah.
Him and Hyman are basically tied for goals at the end of the season, and Hyman's making $5.5 million, and what's Matthews making? $14.1 million.
He's making
Like,
he's making a fuckload of money.
that
I just
is
read a
lot.
stat today that Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics of the NBA is making $1 million more than all four of the biggest superstars in the NHL combined next season.
And I saw
It
one
is
too today.
crazy.
His
also
$62 million is $9 million more than the entire Anaheim Ducks roster currently. They're only at $53 million.
Jesus.
wow.
Sorry, Wilps, you were going to say?
I was gonna say it's also kind of crazy the fact that we're talking about Tatum here, like Tatum and Matthew Tkachuk was like best friends in high school. Like that whole
Mm-hmm.
storyline alone's kind of funny, and for them to both be champions is kind of crazy.
The same year when they both
Oh,
lost
dude.
in the final last year. Like, what a storyline.
Dude, they're going to have a day together with the cup and the
Yeah.
NBA championship trophy. The Larry O'Brien, I think it's called.
Sorry, the Larry O'Brien. I'm not too familiar with the NBA
No, me
trophy,
either.
the name for it. So I'm sure Matty Tkachuk will have the Stanley Cup, and Jason Tatum will have his day with the NBA championship trophy. So I'm sure they'll party it up together.
That would be a nice collab to see. I mean, even though a lot of people
Right?
hate fucking Tatum right now, be like, why is he copying Kevin Garnett right now? But I mean, it's cool to
Yeah.
see the whole collab.
No one likes to see people win. No one likes to see people win. It's crazy.
Nope.
Unless it's your own team, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can see who I'm a fan of, and you know what? I'm very happy for the Florida Panthers getting their first championship in 30 years, man. 30 years the franchise has been around, and they finally got their first cup. You can be nothing but happy for them, right? They deserve it. They fought hard. They came up short last year, absolute heartbreaker, but you can be nothing but happy for them, man. These guys deserved it. They played their hearts out. And like you said, Wilbs, like everyone behind the scenes also deserves credit.
Yep. And all the Tampa fans are like, "Good job, little brother. You're finally on the board." It was 3-0 forever, or 1-0.
And
for
everybody
20 years.
had their doubts back in the day about South Florida being a competitive market for the NHL, and now look at them, 5 years in a row, a Florida-based franchise.
Which is nuts.
Yep, both of them have shown up in the last 5 years. 2020.
Is it just me? Is it just me, or does it kind of remind you of when Chicago and LA had dynasties? You're thinking about dynasties right now about Florida and Tampa. Think about other dynasties that have happened, like Chicago and LA for a few years, or the Pens and Red Wings because they were battling it back and forth. Like so many dynasties that we get to see over decades, and it's fun to watch. It's great to see.
I think if you were to tier list it, your tier A would be Pittsburgh, LA, Chicago, Tampa in the last decade because of how many finals they all went to and how many they won. They all won more than one. But then your tier 2 right behind them is Colorado, who went, Vegas, who went to multiple, Washington, who went to multiple, and now Florida, who went to multiple. Like that would be kind of your next tier of Stanley Cup finalists and champions. Would be like that's your next dynasty level. The ones that have went 1 or 2 times, but just haven't got there a couple more. But obviously, Colorado's bound to at some point. Edmonton's bound to at some point. before 2030. It's crazy. There's only 6 years before 2030, and somehow a lot of these teams have such good players. They're going to get back there, but there's only so many spots.
Yeah, and it's going to be very exciting to see these next couple of years, see where teams go. And I honestly really do think, like, when we get into this free agent episode, you guys are going to see our whole spill on what we think, and it's going to be a banger. So stay tuned for
For
that,
sure.
gents and ladies, because it's gonna be a fun one.
So one thing I
I will
wanted to
definitely.
ask you guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dally.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'll definitely keep some of the Florida takes of next season's predictions for the free agency episode we're gonna do, obviously. But I'm just gonna say they did lose a couple key pieces, but I won't dive into that just yet. But I do have my own takes for that episode, so I'll just
Yep.
keep it for then.
So here's the question that I want to pose to you guys. So here are the teams that now that Florida has won have never won the Stanley Cup: the Buffalo Sabres, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Minnesota Wild, the Nashville Predators, the Ottawa Senators, the San Jose Sharks, Seattle Kraken, Utah Hockey Club, Vancouver Canucks, and Winnipeg Jets. If you had to pick one of those teams, who do you think is going to win the Stanley Cup next?
Um, just based off what I see right now, I think the Predators aren't too far off, and I'll say more into it in the next episode
Mm-hmm.
with the free agency stuff like that. But just take a look at the young talent that they have coming up, like Luke Evangelista. Sure, you could say, "Oh, I'm biased because I'm a Knights fan," but Evangelista did absolutely incredible in this
Mm-hmm.
season. It looks like he's just going to get better from there. And there's a couple of prospects that I'm very expected. I really expected them to put up a fight, and they did in the first round. And I'm very happy to say that. But like, it's hard to say what you like. For me, it was really hard to say. But like, you could go with the Canucks or Nashville. I'm around these two teams that are probably going to get it done. But I really, really am impressed with Nashville, and I feel like they might have a good chance in the upcoming years.
You also have to remember too, this was a team back in 2017 that was going up against the defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins, right? And they stood a good
Yep.
chance against the Pens, all right? Nashville was a great team then, and they've still been a good team then. Obviously, they haven't made it as far since 2017, but like you said, Wilbs, after the free agency talk that we're going to get into, they may very well be a top dog in the West now, right? Because I can't see
Yep.
Vegas being a good team. Like you saw the Dallas Stars wipe them on the ice, right? First round, see ya. So I mean, they're not a top dog in the West. Colorado Avs, I mean, I don't really see them doing very much. They did not have a very great free agency either. I mean, so it's gonna be hard to tell. My bet
Like
also is on Nashville, so I'm gonna stay with that.
Like that's what I mean. Like you see all these players, the future and upcomings. Like Dallas even has those future and upcoming, so they might even have a chance to get these pieces to build a run up. Or the Hawks in like a little while. Like again, like we will say the whole spill because I already know everyone knows the free agency spill, but like I said, you got those future guys like Stan Coven and Wyatt Johnson. Man, Wyatt Johnson, oh my fucking god! Just wait and watch him next year. He is gonna be unreal. That's what I mean. You think
Yep.
about these future players and teams. And that's what's gonna show what's gonna happen with these teams for the next upcoming years.
I'm also excited
Yeah.
to see Maverick Bork come up full time too for the Stars. Christian
True.
Kyrou could also get another shot playing at the big league level. I mean, we also had another ex-Blazer here, Matt Semenoff, also got signed by the Dallas Stars. So they got a great prospect pool and some exciting players to come watch in the next upcoming years. So stay tuned for the Dallas Stars. They're always a top dog in the West. Never
True.
count them out.
All right, let's jump back to the Cup final here. Awesome viewership. I mean, they reached 7.7 million views on the Cup final, Game 7, I believe. And then overall, they noted that it was like 16 million or something, 16.3 million watched Game 7. Over all the channels, I think this one was just ESPN, the 7.7 million. So, I mean, the game's growing. We're getting near 20 million people watching one hockey game, which is incredible. And I always find that those numbers are underinflated because, like, I was invited to watch it at a sports bar. There was 150 people there, and there was 20 TVs. But there, right? How many Shaw boxes, right? So, like, that number doesn't equate properly for how many people actually watched the game. There was 150 people there in one spot. So if they only counted that as one viewer, well, there was 150 times that one viewer. How many bars, how many places all had that viewing, right? So
I just wanted to throw out a
it's
quick
interesting.
stat for you boys too that we had a weird year for viewership. So we just had back in January, because I know you were in Seattle for, well, not for the Kraken's and Golden Knights game at the Winter Classic, but you were in town to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers and Seattle Seahawks. But we went from the worst viewed Winter Classic in history to now
Yep,
having the most viewed Stanley Cup Finals game ever. So it's
very true.
just, I thought that was a weird stat, but it's just a fluctuation in how we went from a really terrible Winter Classic to an amazing Stanley Cup Finals run, right?
Yeah.
So
Although I will say too, though, like the Flames versus Oilers game that we went to, me and Dakota, was the highest ever watched outdoor Heritage Classic game. So like that one kind of balanced off versus the Seattle game, and then no surprise, Edmonton in that game, Edmonton in the final inflated viewership, right?
we'll see, and
So
they did it so perfectly, right? Because that's the Battle of Alberta showed on
yep,
the outdoor stage. Everybody loves a good outdoor game, but also when you have a hot rivalry like the Battle of Alberta, because take it like this, okay? You had the Heritage Classic in 2011, was it? Ottawa versus
yep,
Vancouver, right? Like, those aren't really two teams that see each other a whole lot, West versus East, and it's like, why are you pitting them against each other? You want to
yeah,
see a Detroit versus Toronto. You want to see a Pittsburgh versus Philly, a Edmonton, Calgary, Tampa, Florida, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So it's just, I
yep,
think pivotal matchups are what's going to drive your numbers up. But also,
true,
like I was just saying, unexpectedly, you have an Oilers and Panthers matchup. So, but only because it was a Canadian team, I'm sure everybody in the nation was watching. So,
true. Let's jump back to a few things here. Barkov, surprisingly, the very first ever Finnish captain to win the Stanley Cup, which is
that's
surprising to
crazy.
me. With like
Yep,
guys
he's
like
a
Miku
legend.
Koivu who have been captains and stuff. I know Koivu's never won. Saku Koivu, Miku Koivu, like these Finnish stars have been captains before. They just haven't won, which is kind of bizarre. One guy you can't not be happy for is Paul Maurice. 1,985 NHL games before he won the Stanley Cup. Almost
Impressive.
2,000 games. Like, that's incredible. I'm surprised he didn't retire, to be honest with you. Like, when he stepped away from Winnipeg, his goal was to try and win a Stanley Cup. Here he did, he won, but he said, see you in September. I'm surprised that he didn't just call it. Like, that's it, guys. I am exhausted after this, but good for him.
Post game speech just wants the Jets to go win it now for him next year.
True. I saw that. I was like, that's because then he still didn't retire. So it's like, bro, you still have a chance to win it next year. Like, that's an odd thing to say.
Right?
If you could say, I want the Winnipeg Jets to win the Stanley Cup, don't give it a time frame. Don't say next year, because then that means
Guy
that you
sounded like
don't
it was
want
one
your
and
team to
done.
win it next year.
Yeah,
It
guy
was
says,
so
nope, one
weird.
and done. I'm
I mean,
satisfied.
you gotta give him a break. He was on an emotional high. He was just saying whatever. So, but I thought that was funny. Bill Zito, the general manager, joined some fun company. He's the sixth general manager to win at least a Stanley Cup and a Calder Cup as general manager. He joins Keith Allen, Julian Brisebois, Bob Gainey, Serge Savard, and Neil Smith as the only GMs to do that. Skip that. Bobrovsky earned his first cup at the age of 35. I always forget how old Bobrovsky is. Like, even though I keep talking about it, somehow I always forget he's 35. I feel like he's 32 or 33, but he's really up there. Yeah, we talked about Tatum. Well, let's talk about this. This is probably the biggest talking point. Connor McDavid wins the playoff MVP, and it was widely disregarded, and he was booed, and people were saying he was a joke for not coming out and getting the trophy. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on it? I personally know where I stand, but what are your guys' thoughts on McDavid winning the Conn Smythe?
I mean, he definitely deserves to win the Conn Smythe, but doesn't mean he has to go out and accept it. Like, I mean, sure, like, if he win, obviously it's a different thing, but he wanted to be with his team. He wanted to stand by with his team. You know, emotions rise during these games, right? So you saw McDavid just crying and, feels really upset, waiting for his whole team before going into the room. And when you're in the room as a captain, I think you would want to feel with your teammates instead of going out there winning an award you didn't really want to. Like, I mean, obviously you probably would have wanted to win more if they won the cup, but again,
Yeah,
it's high emotions, and I don't think McDavid did anything wrong. That's my
no.
point.
And I just want to throw it back to 2003 when J.S. Jaguar won it, and he did accept the trophy. But we have to remember, like, if you've seen any IIHF tournaments, any Olympics, right? The team wins the gold medal. The silver medal team is standing on the other blue line. They watch the ceremony, giving the gold medals for a few minutes, and then they leave the ice. Well, that's what used to happen with the Stanley Cup. Both teams would stay on the ice for the presentation of the Calder Trophy and the presentation of the Stanley Cup, and then the losing team would leave. So J.S. Jaguar and the whole Anaheim Ducks team were still on the ice in 2003 when he accepted the award. As of right now, the whole Oilers team was off the ice. They were gone. Why would he come back out of the dressing room, skate in front of the winning team who just wants to celebrate, go all the way across to accept a trophy, just to carry it off in front of the winning team back to his locker room? Like, that doesn't make any sense. People would have said he was selfish if he accepted it. They say he's selfish for not accepting it. Like,
There's no
there's
winning the
nothing you
argument,
can do.
really.
No.
It could go either way, right?
If they were going to give it to him, they should have had the whole Oilers team stay on the ice to tap sticks and congratulate him and then skate off together as a team while he carries the trophy off, but they didn't. And you can't have the entire Florida arena cheering for the Panthers, the team anticipating and waiting to cheer on them lifting the cup and wait for the cup to come out, and then just have this random guy from the other team come out and pick up the trophy. Like, that's not fair to the fans, not fair to the Panthers, and it's not fair to McDavid. So I'm happy that they didn't do it. But he definitely deserved it. I mean, he had arguably the third best playoffs in NHL history.
Can't argue that, boss.
So he had 8 goals, 34 assists, and 42 points in only 25 games. He was a plus 12. He scored the most assists in the playoffs ever with 34. Most playoff points, or fourth most playoff points in a season in playoff history. He was the MVP despite not winning the Stanley Cup. Like, there's so much that this guy already did. You just can't knock it, in my opinion. Let's jump to one of the teams that didn't win, that was on our who's going to win the Stanley Cup next list. Let's talk about the Buffalo Sabres and the amount of guys that they have win the Stanley Cup that used to be on their roster. We're talking about Ryan O'Reilly, Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, Kyle Okposo, Brandon Montour, and Evan Rodriguez have all won the Stanley Cup since they've left the Buffalo Sabres.
And Buffalo paid Okposo $500,000 that was embedded in his contract if he wins the Stanley Cup. Wasn't specific if it was with Buffalo, but if he wins the Stanley Cup, now they have to pay him as he is now a member of the Florida Panthers. So think of it that, like, they literally just built a super team for the Florida Panthers.
Yep. Literally. Oh, I don't know. Buffalo, they're like, I think it was you who said it, Dally. They're the farm team of the NHL. Wasn't that you who said that? Or was it Will?
Well, yeah, they had Brendan Montour, Evan Rodriguez. They had Kyle Okposo, Sam Reinhart. So, like, all of them are now members of Florida. So it's like, wow. Basically just shipped them on out and they won a championship elsewhere. Like, revolving door almost, right? In Buffalo.
Yeah. I want to note this stat because this is beyond the point of statistically probable. So let's go all the way back. 1994, Game 7, Stanley Cup Final, Canucks lose. 2004, Game 7, Stanley Cup Final, Flames lose. 2006, Game 7, Stanley Cup Final, Oilers lose. 2011, Game 7, Stanley Cup Final, Canucks lose. 2024, Game 7, Stanley Cup Final, Oilers lose. there is less than a 1% chance, because it's a game 7, it's a full-on 50-50. There's less than a 1% chance if you flipped a coin that many times that you would get, let's just call it heads the entire time, and that tails would lose every time. Less than 1%, and yet the Canadian teams have lost every single one since they've won the Stanley Cup in 1993.
That's
Pretty
a
crazy.
crazy stat.
Absolutely wild.
They've had zero luck, absolutely no luck when it comes to Game 7s. It's like their worst enemy. I tell you, next Canadian team to run it back to the Stanley Cup Finals are just already take your losses, boys.
Yep. All right, so once again, we want to congratulate the Florida Panthers on their incredible Stanley Cup win. They did deserve it. They were a team on a mission. They said it right as soon as they got eliminated last year that they will be back with a vengeance, and they were. So congratulations to them on
Kept their promise.
climbing the mountain. They kept their promise, and not many people can do that. All right, well, let's jump to the Hockey Hall of Fame class that was announced. This is a pretty star-studded class. Like, obviously, it always is, but this one is a lot of recent players. We have Pavel Datsyuk, Jeremy Roenick, Shea Weber, and then PWHL, Natalie Darwitz, Chrissy Wendell-Pole, and then builders are David Poyle and Colin Campbell. So congratulations to that class. Any surprises that made it in this class too,
Colin
guys?
Campbell.
You're surprised about Colin Campbell?
Very surprised, but I'm not going to get into it too much. But I mean, like, again, another year, another snub, right? Like, another
Yep.
year where Alexander McGillney does not get into the Hall.
Yep.
Like,
It can't keep going on that much longer.
It can't. Like, he deserves it full willy-nilly. He deserves to get into the Hall. He's a hell of a hockey player. Like, I don't know how many times he's going to have to go another year without hearing his name. He's not going to get the phone call from Lanny, right?
Yep.
Jeremy Roenick, though, that was a very big one. I was surprised about.
He
Another
deserves
great
it
hockey
too.
player that
He's
finally
had a
got it,
great career.
right? Finally got it. And then we kind of have a tad bit of a homecoming. Not too close to us, but Sicamous native Shea Weber. Big congrats to him.
Yep.
That
That's a
actually
huge
didn't
deal.
take long at all. That didn't take
No.
long at all for him to get in.
1 year. That's all it was. He got the minimum 1 year and he was in. But people were saying, oh, Shea Weber already. It's like, well, look at the guy's career. He's a warrior.
He's had a tremendous career.
So I don't blame it at all. And you got to look, like, it's not fair to look at where people come from, but if you don't know what Sicamous is, listen to the name. Like, it is how it sounds. Like, it's very small. It's doesn't have much there in terms of outlets. There's definitely not there in terms of like a major hockey for minor hockey. You know,
just
he
got
had
the
to
Eagles.
travel to play. He always had to travel to play. And, you know, his story very much Carey Price's. Carey Price was even more off the map, right? Being from Anaheim Lake here in BC. But Sicamous is very small as well. But
Sicamous, I mean,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's known for what? Like the houseboat capital of Canada. That's pretty much it. It's a
Something like that.
very small town. It's like a one stoplight town, passerby. So, but rich in hockey, right? I mean, you got the KIJHL team, Sicamous Eagles, but yeah. And then he also did play for Kelowna, so another huge alumni to come out of there, right? Like we were saying,
Yes.
the London Knights of the West. He was one of the big ones that came out of there, won the 04 Memorial Cup.
Yep. And then Pavel Datsyuk, obviously, who well-deserved. One of the best Russians to ever play in the NHL.
No argument.
And I guess the other no argument is, yeah.
I'm glad I got to see him play live.
Oh, that would be cool. I didn't get to. Never got to.
He was nasty.
Dally, you must have. Being in Windsor, going to Detroit? Yeah.
I got to see
That's
Cronwall.
awesome.
I got to see Lidstrom. I got to see Zetterberg, Datsyuk. There's so many great Detroit Red Wings through the 08 to, I'd say, well, when it was Datsuk and Zetterberg's era, I'd say the '08 to '16 era. And
Nice.
then other than that, I mean, you had your Dylan Larkins, you had your Moritz Siders now. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
a great era for Red Wings players.
That's awesome. All right, let's jump to the Four Nations face-off. They have announced Canada's head coach will be Tampa Bay Lightning coach John Cooper. So I'm pumped
Fucking
for
love that
that.
guy. We love that guy. We love Coops.
Everyone loves Coops.
Yeah.
There's no bad words about Coops out there. But then we have the first six from each team. So from Team Canada, we have Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Brad Marchand, and Braden Point. I was surprised that Braden Point was named, but I think that's because Cooper is the coach. That's my guess.
I'm not really surprised.
I wouldn't argue that.
I think he's an underrated guy, but like you said, I feel like, Cooper's the coach to do the job. I think he'll do a good job with these guys. Like, I'm actually kind of excited, not gonna lie. So we'll see how he
Me
does.
If
and
Cooper kill Makar,
Makar's gonna be nasty.
yeah, give Coop kill Makar. He's just gonna give that guy the wheels. Here you go, bud. You're free.
Me and Wilbs had a nice, interesting back and forth with someone on TikTok there because I posted about how the Nova Scotia line's all nice and set with Marshy. You have Sid and you have McKinnon, right? And then someone's like, McDavid's not from Nova Scotia, and I'm like, buddy, how many forwards are on the line together? 3, okay? And where does it say anywhere here that McDavid is from Nova Scotia, right? You have to know who on this 6-player list is from Nova Scotia, right? And it was just a comment because every time Canada goes on the international stage, they always put Sid, Marchand, and McKinnon on the line. So that's, the Nova Scotia line because they're literally all from the same town. But I thought it was just hilarious. He kept going back and forth saying, no, not McDavid. And it's like, no one here mentioned
one's
McDavid
saying that.
whatsoever. We're just having a photo of the 6 players, right? And we're just naming 3 of them that conform of the Nova Scotia line, brother. I thought it was funny.
Some people just don't know.
No problem if he doesn't know. It's just stop arguing. We're trying to explain it as professionally and most understandably as possible, right? But he just was not getting it through, apparently. So, whatever. No. McDavid's from Nova Scotia, I guess.
There we go. Team USA: Quinn Hughes, Jack Eichel, Charlie McAvoy, Matthew Tkachuk, Adam Fox, and Austin Matthews. I'm surprised only one Tkachuk brother announced in the starting 6. Like, obviously, Brady Tkachuk's going to be there. And look, don't get me wrong, Charlie McAvoy is a fantastic player. But did Charlie McAvoy deserve it over Brady Tkachuk for like the initial 6? I don't think so. He just captained your Team USA overseas. You'd think that you'd kind of give him that slot right now.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
But again, they didn't really miss.
I mean, for the initial 6, I would have thrown JT Miller or Cole Caulfield in that mix. But I know they'll probably get picked either way when the full roster's set in stone. But, I mean, Cole Caulfield is one of the most deserving USA players I think should be deserving of that top 6 over Jack Eichel, I think.
I will not be surprised if Cole
Who's
Caulfield
more consistent, though?
It.
I know, but who's more consistent, though? Would you rather have a Jack Eichel or a Cole Caulfield-esque player, right?
Jack
Injury
Eichel.
And consistency and goal scoring, right?
I think I gotta go with Eichel on that one. I think I gotta go with Eichel on that one.
You'd rather Eichel,
Definitely.
Fair enough.
Big time. Post Vegas, like after joining Vegas, Eichel, yes. If we're talking about Buffalo Eichel, probably not. But yes, the Vegas version of Eichel is a different beast than what he was.
He's nuts.
Vegas Eichel, yes. I mean, he was miserable though in Buffalo, so there's that.
It's literally like watching Money Manziel at Texas A&M because he was just nasty. And then when Jack Eichel, he gets moved from Buffalo, then he becomes a fucking different breed. It's just all money.
Stud. All right, let's jump to Sweden. We have Victor Hedman, Eric Carlson, Gustav Forsling, Philip Forsberg, Mika Zibanejad, and William Nylander. I don't think there's a real surprise there,
Nope.
honestly. Maybe
Solid
that they
choices.
didn't name a
Solid top
goalie.
6. That's a solid top 6. I like it.
I mean, that they might have the best D in the tournament with Hedman, Forsling, Carlson, and then how they can build around it. Like, that's a pretty crazy. With the way Forsling just played, he just shut down McDavid. Like, now he gets to play against him. Now, obviously, McDavid's going to have some pretty unreal talent on either side of his wing, but still. And then let's go to Finland. Jussi Saros, Esa Lindell, Miro Heiskanen, Alex Barkov, Mikko Rantanen, and Sebi Aho. So, again, all strong. All of them have a strong 6. Like, each country's top 6 players they are who they are. They're fantastic players. I just like how Finland actually named a starting lineup. Goaltender, 2 defense, and 3 forwards. I just thought that was hilarious that they did that.
Scandinavia always comes out in numbers, and they're always proven some of the best lineups. Obviously, competitive-wise towards the States and Canada, they got obviously a lot of the bigger NHL names, but boy, Finland and Sweden never, ever, ever disappoints.
True.
And they're going to have a good roster for the 4 nations.
Let's talk, gentlemen, about some TARP releases. Let's talk LA Kings, Anaheim Ducks. What do we like? What do we not like? I mean, these are some beautiful kits all the way around, but break it down for me. What do you think of, let's start with LA. What do you think of the LA Kings jerseys?
Bust. They spent how
so.
long? So
2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, so I was going to say, they've had 2 years to think it over, saying, okay, guys, so let's all get in a room together. Yeah, we got to break it down. Do we want to rebrand? Do we want to rekit? Like, what's going on here? Like, do we want to recycle an old logo and uniform? Or do you want to go with something totally original? And they thought, and they thought, and they thought, and they're like, okay, we'll use something from the 80s. Or was it, the 80s? And
Yeah, I
they're
think
like,
it's the 80s.
so let's modernize it, right? To me, they brought a little bit of the colors, like with all the black, with the crest
it
logo.
looks more sleek, for sure.
Yeah, a little bit more modernized, right? A little bit more bolder. But they could have went with something totally better, guys. Like, think of the purple and yellow and silver, right? When they had the same idea, right? With that old like paper crown. They could have went with that. With the crest that they used, right? But instead of having the Now Kings logo, they could have went with like that underneath too as well, with like a purple trim around that crest, and then down the sleeve, the purple and the yellow. But I guess they kind of kept it true to the black and white. But personally, I think it's a bust all in all. They could have definitely went with their old color scheme, but I guess their take was we wanted more of a modern taste. So compared to the Ducks, definitely a bust compared to the Ducks. The Ducks just blew it out of the water, and I am so happy with what they went with, but we'll get into that.
I think I feel like if they keep that like jersey, I feel like it might grow on some people. I'm not saying like it's a really good jersey. I think it's an okay jersey. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not like, but compared to the Ducks jersey, the Duck is far superior. Like they could have got with the classic purple, but with the orange, oh my. They are nasty.
Like,
I love it.
I like what you said, Wilbs. It's not a horrible jersey, but they definitely could have done something totally different. They could have really upped their creativity game, right? Something either totally original, or they could have at least done a better rebrand, right? That's all I'm saying.
Can I say this? For the design that they picked, I will say they nailed it. Just for the design they picked. But there were better designs. The one thing I always think about, like, I think we all want the purple and gold, but there's a 50-50 split in NHL fans that half of them are going to say, oh, you just stayed boring and you went with the black and white, whatever. But the other half, if they went yellow and purple, would go, oh, yeah, piggybacking off the Lakers. You're not the Lakers. Like, I feel like because they're both in LA, if this was anywhere else, let's just say Florida, just because they won the Stanley Cup. If this was the Florida Panthers who just, boom, decided to go purple and gold, I don't think anyone would bat an eye. But because it's in the same city as the Lakers are purple and gold. I just feel like they kind of get ragged on by a large group of people for trying to be the Lakers of the NHL when they're not, and I think that's why they haven't really gone back outside of alternates.
But you want to continue that conversation, though, you could talk about the New York Knicks and the New York Islanders, right? Those New
Yep.
York teams,
The
they
Mets.
also, yeah, the Mets, they also stick
Yep.
to the same style of color scheme, right? Okay, and then you got the Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh, you got the Steelers, the Pirates, the Pens, all
Yep.
same color scheme, right? And then you want to take it further. I mean, Detroit, they don't really do that as much. You know, there's a couple blue in there. They got the orange and the dark navy for
Yep. Tigers.
Tigers. So, but then Chicago, even they almost don't do it for a
Yeah.
multi-team city. You know, they got two MLB teams, but I mean, I don't think it's quite copying another sports um, jersey in a way. It's almost like having a nod to a more historic franchise in the city, right?
Can
Like,
I
sorry, I
just?
just want to say, like,
Yeah. Go ahead.
it's
Go ahead.
almost like the city's color, right? Like that's what you're sticking with. It's like resembling the city's color, right? So like LA could be like, yeah, purple and yellow. That's the city. Pittsburgh is the city of black and gold, right? So that's what they stuck with for all their teams. So maybe
Yeah.
it's like a trend, but
That's kind of what I want to say, though. Exactly. Like basically, exactly on that line. You think about New York, right? New York. They're New Yorkers, right? Like that's where they're from. That's where they live. All that. Same thing with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh steelwork town. Like it's a hard work, heavy on the or hard boots type of city, and they build around a culture, and the yellow and black or the yellow and gold is what they really strive on. But let's talk about the city of LA. LA is all about getting yours. LA is no one from Los Angeles, everyone moving there, right? And when you're there, everyone owns their own brand. Everyone is separate. Everyone is different. You have the movie stars, you have the singers, you have this group, you have that group, right? Nothing's in sync in LA. It's all separate, it's all different. So I think that is where this comes from for the LA side, where the Kings get bashed on for being purple and gold because that's the Lakers and the Lakers own LA, according to some people, right? But other people, they like the Kings being purple and gold. So I think you're exactly right with the cities that are on the East Coast. They're tight knit. People live there because they live there and because they love being there. But LA is where you go because you're a star or because you want to be a star or you're chasing something. Not very many people are born, raised, and live in LA for their whole life, right? Like it's always a revolving door of people. There is a group of people, like probably, a decent amount, but not as many as we think compared to it. So I think that's why it's so contradictory in that city specifically.
yeah, and
That's my
I know
guess.
we've debated jerseys before, but like you almost want your jersey to like really resemble your city's identity, right? Like you want it to
Yeah.
stick true to its colors. And I mean, if they were to have gone per se back to purple and yellow, then fine. But I mean, they did
Yeah.
do it for a time, and it was pretty historic. I mean, I love those Kings jerseys down to a T. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. I'll always
Nope.
go up to bat to defend that they were one of the best NHL jerseys ever. But if
Makes
you
you
want to
wonder
stay,
if the NHL doesn't want purple jerseys, because let's be honest, these two rebrands are the two purple teams in the NHL in history, and they both didn't go purple.
well, all right. So let's jump into Anaheim now, just across the interstate there. Oh
Yep.
my God, highlighter orange, the only NHL team to have a highlighter orange, and boy, did they hit it out of the park. And I
You
mentioned
called it.
this back in November. I said, boys, there's rumors of Anaheim rebranding, and Christ, do I want a 2014-esque Stadium Series Anaheim Ducks jersey, and boy, did they
Yep.
deliver.
They delivered.
I am in love with
It's
them.
gorgeous.
I'm not even a Ducks fan, and I want one.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, I think that they left a little to be desired on the whites. I still like them, but the orange, the all orange, they just hit it out of the park. Absolutely, like you said.
And watching it on TV at the draft, like you got to see the general managers handing out the jersey to the players. Well, we got to see it firsthand. Scotty
Yeah,
Niedermayer, Kamloops Blazers legend and Anaheim Ducks legend, making the first pick for the franchise in the
yeah,
2024 NHL draft, and they got Beckett Seneca, which we'll get into, which was absolutely shocking. But boy, did that jersey look awesome at the
He
Sphere in
looked
Yep.
Las
he looked good
Vegas.
in it. He
Looked
looked
great.
good in that.
Yes, sir. It's a slick jersey. Just the red
I,
in the eyes, and then they brought back the old like Mighty Ducks mask, and we don't have no more of the three different striped colors going down the side of the chest there, and it looks
yep.
so good, man. So
Huge
good.
drip. Huge drip.
One thing I saw after this too was a quote saying, "Expect lots of new designs and logos in 2025-26." The NHL says it's a pretty robust lineup of teams changing, and they also note that the Winter Classic and the Four Nations jerseys sound incredible. So there's a lot of new jerseys to look forward to over the next 2 to 3 years, which is going to be
Fanatics
awesome to
also,
see.
yeah, Fanatics also confirmed. I think every team now is going to be getting a third alternate now. So every team
Yep.
with the new outfitter for the NHL, that each team will be getting a new alternate. That
You
is
know what?
yet
I
to
have
be
a lot of
determined if it's going to
faith.
be for this season or next season.
I now have a lot of faith in Fanatics because they mentioned that the company that they use to make these jerseys for their brand is a Quebec-based company that's been making jerseys for like 45 or 50 years. So now I have a lot of faith that these are going to be high quality. They're going to be good NHL hockey jerseys, not like the baseball jersey debacle. They have sourced out to an actual hockey jersey company to make these. So that gives me all the faith in the world. So I'm like, go for it. Let these guys do it. See how good they turn out.
And what do you have behind you? Just all Adidas?
These ones?
Yeah.
I think so. I think they're all Adidas. I haven't checked.
Like,
But
I love the Adidas, don't get me wrong, but I'd like to at least give Fanatics a chance and see if they can do pretty well.
mhm,
But we'll have to see. You can't judge it just yet until you actually see them in your hand at the store or on the players' backs during the game. So I mean, you
exactly.
can't you can't judge it too quick. Gotta wait and see, man.
No. All right, let's try and wrap this up here, gentlemen. You mentioned at the beginning, Dallas, that the Hershey Bears are now back-to-back Calder Cup champions. They got
Nasty.
taken to the 7-game rink versus the Cleveland Monsters or Lake Erie Monsters, whichever one it is. And then they won in 6 games versus the Coachella Valley Firebirds. For the second year in a row, Coachella Valley loses. Absolute heartbreak. But good for Hershey. I mean, these guys, they're a wagon. They're an absolute
Hey,
dynasty in the AHL.
hey, is the Shane Wright curse gonna be a thing?
Oof,
Imagine.
maybe.
I
Maybe.
mean,
Yeah.
they
He's
lost
lost
in the
twice
first.
now.
They've lost in the first round to the Rangers, getting swept, and then
Yep.
he loses in the finals.
That
Yeah,
one hurts Dallas.
I know Dally was probably not happy about that.
No.
Buddy, I was cheesed. I was cheesed, man. And that was Maggio's last series as a spit, and I was just
Oh,
I was pissed.
I missed
I was
Mag.
pissed.
Maggio was so nasty with the spit. Oh my god, I fucking loved him in the O show.
Highly underrated last year in the OHL, man. Highly underrated. The 50 goal scorer, and he was hardly talked about.
Jeez. All right, gentlemen, let's end this. Let's jump into our battle of the tarps here. All right, let's go. We got the St. John Sea Dogs alternate jerseys in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And from the Ice Hockey League, we have Innsbruck. Very similar to, let's say, the New York Islanders. Give me your takes. I think, again, there's a pretty clear winner, but they're both not bad. Honestly, they're not bad.
I'm gonna go Sea Dogs, boys.
Yeah, honestly,
Sea Dogs.
they.
That
I mean, those alternates, man, like those by far, by none, my favorite St. John Sea Dogs jerseys.
that
See, my
crisp
only thing with it
off
is
navy blue. Ooh,
all you have to do on that, though, all you have to do is just put a fin on the back, and that's a shark. It is so close to looking like a shark to me instead of a sea dog. Like, they kind of lost the sea dog in there. It's there, But if you put a fin on that back, boom, shark. Easy. You wouldn't even question it. You'd be like, oh yeah, that's a shark.
Yeah, but he looks menacing in that. It's sick.
He does. Yeah, it's good. It's just like, oh, they're really, really like their other one, their oldest, the archaic sea dog. You can tell that's a sea dog. Looks like a sea dog. This one, it's like, it's just close to a shark. But I'm also going to pick St. John. Great. It is a good jersey. They did a great job, I think. And speaking of a shark, though, this Innsbruck, they do have a shark as their logo. Funny enough. So I don't mind it. I mean, the blue is kind of crisp. It's like a purpley blue. I like, again, honeycomb. Honeycomb in their jersey is kind of cool. I might have to change, boys. I love honeycomb. I mean, honeycomb on the arms just up until the elbow, and then honeycomb on just the outside design and the bottom. You know what? For their sake, I'm actually going to switch it up. I'm going Innisbrook for this one because
Trader.
I love honeycomb. I love honeycomb. I do.
Trader.
If so many teams went honeycomb, I would eat that up. I love it.
Close. It's a close one, but I'm still sticking with my St. John's Sea Dogs.
Fair enough.
Trader.
Fair enough. All right, let's jump to the June final. This one, it's a heartbreaker, gentlemen. Someone is going home not happy after this vote. We have the Edmonton Oil Kings Reds versus the Sudbury Wolves alternates. Who do you got?
Honestly,
That's tough.
as much as it was a long run for Sudbury, Edmonton's got my vote. Edmonton all the way.
Okay.
Yep. I got Edmonton
Okay.
too.
It's just too good. It's just too good to say no.
Can't.
It's
Yeah,
just too good to say
you
no,
can't
man.
defeat it.
I'm sticking Sudbury. I'm going to stick Sudbury all the way with this one. I've ridden them this whole time. I'm going to give them their last hurrah here. Hopefully, we'll get some other votes from the other guys. We'll try and put a poll up on X for people to vote on the
Also,
Battle of the
I'll
Tarps.
also put
Can't
go ahead.
flip on that, boys.
I'll put a poll up on my TikTok.
Yeah.
See what
We'll
people
throw
say
some
about
polls
that.
up. And you guys can let us know, who do you choose, the Sea Dogs or Innisbrook, or the Oil Kings versus Sudbury Wolves? And whoever wins will be our June final champion between Edmonton and Sudbury. And then our July round robin one is the St. John Sea Dogs versus Innisbrook. But other than that, gentlemen, we wanted to keep this shorter for sure, and that's what I think we did. We accomplished that. So thank you to everyone for watching. Like Dallas said in the beginning, let's subscribe. We said last episode we want to try and get to Rimouski for the 2025 the Memorial Cup. There we go. I can spit it out. 2025 Memorial Cup in Rimouski. We would love to do that. We'd love to bring live, up close, personal content to you guys. And we need people to subscribe. We need people to watch and listen on Spotify or YouTube, wherever it is that you listen to your podcast. We want to be able to grow this to the size of something that we could really help people and let them enjoy hockey content of all. We're not just NHL. We're not just CHL. We're not just talking NCAA or stuff overseas. We're talking all hockey. So we want to thank everyone who has been with us this whole time. We want to encourage everyone to continue to watch and subscribe, like I said. And other than that, we're going to end it there. And we will see everyone at the draft recap and the free agent frenzy. So talk to everyone in the next one.